Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. Let me ask you, how many of you are completely sick and tired of politics? Raise your hand. I see a lot of you raised your hands. I can't believe it. Me too. Which is why I've decided that for the next 2 weeks, seeing as how I just came off of a wonderful 4-day break where I didn't listen to the radio, I didn't watch the TV news, all I did was listen to music and participate in life. That's what I did. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about that and give you folks a little break from all this political stuff that's going on. So, let's start off. Last Thursday was my birthday on the 28th of July. So I had planned to go see a show up in Ogunquit, Maine. I planned to go see a gentleman who's familiar around here. His name is Jonathan Edwards, folk singer. Now you folks may remember that I did a show a while ago about the power of music and how I believe that music can change the world. Jonathan Edwards is one of those people that can change the world, or that has changed the world. I've got his shirt. You probably noticed the slogan, "Put a good buzz on." That's right. That was one of his famous songs, "Lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on." He did "Sunshine, Go Away Today." He did "Don't Cry Blue." This man has been playing music for 4 decades, since 1971, and he's still going strong. Little did I know, the night of the concert, which was my birthday night, was also Jonathan's birthday night. That's right. It was his birthday too. He turned 70 years old while I turned 55. And he looks fantastic. He sounds fantastic. And just as uplifting an evening as you could imagine. The concert was held at a place called Jonathan's in Ogunquit, which is a beautiful little restaurant and musical venue, comedy venue. Restaurant downstairs, the venue is upstairs. I would say it probably doesn't hold more than 100, 120 people maybe. Small tables. Again, as I was with Lenny Clark, I was right up front for this show. And I was going to be a good boy. I had my cell phone turned off, just like the sign outside the door said. But at one point early on in the show, Jonathan, during one of his little in-between songs talks, was mentioning that it was his birthday and there was probably going to be a lot of video filmed that night. And, pretty much if you had cell phones, go ahead and use them and record. He didn't mind at all. So I did. And first clip I'm going to play is he kicked off with the song "Don't Cry Blue" and rolled into a song called "Athens County." So have a look at this.
Includes some choreography. Beyonce told me it was all the rage. I said, "John, you gotta get some choreography in your show." She has a Maine accent. She's got a Maine accent for days. Shall we? Yes.
Fantastic, huh? And shot on an iPhone, can you believe it? I was amazed at the quality. The only time it gets a little grainy when I push in, and I believe that's probably because it has to kick up the ISO in order to film in the low light levels. Again, what a musician. And the two guys that he had playing with him were fantastic. Jonathan Edwards has just released his 16th album. And it's called, oh crap, let me get to the top. It's called Tomorrow's Child by Jonathan Edwards. His songs, they're uplifting, and like all folk singers, a lot of it is the stories in between, you know? And in a small place like Jonathan's in Ogunquit, it's intimate. You can tell that these performers, they're just real, down-to-earth, honest-to-God people. You know? I don't believe that there was any politics mentioned. It was just music and fun and laughs. And like I said, it was Jonathan's birthday, too. So I couldn't miss the opportunity when his piano player kicked into Happy Birthday to film that. Have a look.
I can't imagine any more wishes than what I already have. Thank you all so much. I'll get you later.
I love his remarks. I couldn't wish for anything more than I already have. What a great sentiment, you know? It was a wonderful show. At one point, he made the remark, "I want to thank all of you for coming to my birthday party." I said, "I want to thank you for playing at mine," because basically that was my birthday party. Me and the 120 of my newest friends. So it was a great time. Jonathan Edwards, not only a fantastic musician, he's been in a couple movies over the years. In 2008, a 90-minute documentary of Jonathan's life and career was released called That's What Our Life Is. It was released by Media Artists, and that DVD is available on his website and at any of his shows, as well as he has a wonderful little merch table that includes this Put a Good Buzz On with Jonathan Edwards t-shirt. And I think it should have said, I put a good buzz on with Jonathan Edwards. That's what I think the t-shirt should have said. He can also be seen in the 2009 release, The Golden Boys, where he plays a reformist preacher, Reverend Pearlie. The film starred David Carradine, Bruce Dern, and Rip Torn. And that also featured a score by Jonathan Edwards. These days, he's just an old young man, is what he is. Still traveling, still playing shows, still with as much energy as a 17-year-old kid. And speaking of 17-year-old kid, one of the first songs that I ever heard Jonathan play back in the early days. It came off, I believe, his first album. Was a song called Sunshine. It's a beautiful song, and it's pretty much a protest song. The one version that I always remember was, it was a live version. I can't remember what album it came off, but there's a line that says, he's got cards he ain't showing. And in the version that I really like, he said, but Nixon's got cards he ain't showing. One of my favorite songs, probably the most recognizable, one of the most recognizable songs of Jonathan Edwards is Sunshine. Here's the video.
Thanks again. Sunshine, go away today. I don't feel much like this. Some man's on and tried to run my life. You don't know what he does in. Tells me I better get in line. I can't hear a word he's saying. When I grow up, I'm gonna make it mine. But these ain't things I did today. Say with us. Now how much does it cost? Alright, the time is all we've lost. I'll try it, and he can't even run. It's all life be damned if you run mine.
After that song was released, it's still a fantastic and a relevant song. Relevant to the issues that it discusses. You know, people trying to run our lives when we don't need it. That's all I can say. Like I said, it was a protest song. He did I believe, an album called Little Hands, which was a collection of children's songs, and he was honored for that with a National Library Association award. Just a little more information about this wonderful, fantastic performer. Just a guy who's been around the block and then some, you know? He's been everywhere, he's done everything. He has ties, I believe, to Peterborough. Now, from reading his biography, there's no place in his biography that says anything about living in Peterborough, New Hampshire, but I believe it's possibly his parents, I believe, live in Peterborough. I believe that was the ties to this area here. The first time I ever saw him was way back when Keene still did its first nights events, and he played at the Gazebo in the Square. He's also been to the Colonial. The Plaintiff, my ex-wife, back in the late 70s, she followed him around on tour. She loved him that much, you know? Now comes a point in the show where, you know, time's wrapping down, and I've got to tell you, real quick, it stinks when you're trying to film stuff on your iPhone and you get halfway through the song and your iPhone says, boop, storage is full, you cannot film anymore. Which happened to me early on in the show and left me scrambling there in the dark with my iPhone, deleting everything I could. I was deleting podcast downloads, I was deleting audio books, I was deleting, you know, library books that I'd had checked out, and I was in the process of reading any kind of pictures that I'd already looked at. I was deleting game apps, anything to get room on my phone so I could film a little bit more. And again, he ended the show with Shanty. I got 5 minutes of it before my phone gave up one last time and said, you're full again. But he went on and played another 5 minutes of the song. So I apologize for not getting the whole song. But here's the video that I got for Lay Around the Shanty and Put a Good Buzz On.
Sandy said, this morning, she said, wake up, it's your 70th birthday. I said, 17? That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm about 17. Until I look in the mirror, you know. I'd like to dedicate this last song to state of Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, Maine soon. I'm already living like it's dedicated to Maine too. Many of you probably don't know the story behind this song, so I'll make one up. We had a saying in our band in 1968. You know, we came from Ohio to live in Boston and try to seek our fortune in Boston. And we had a saying in our band. What do you do tonight? Huh? Usual. You know, lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. And that was our saying. And I'm not sure that I wrote this one, but it was said that I wrote it. Because it was there the next afternoon when we all woke up. Written on the kitchen table in pencil. So I owe most of my career to the fact that pencil adheres to Formica. So I hope you enjoy it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama.
And with the end of that song, they left the stage, returned to the stage to a standing ovation, and did one last song to wrap up the night. With everybody standing, he sang, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. And he ended the night with that song. Like I said, a beautiful, wonderful, fantastic night. One of the best birthdays I've ever had in a long time. And you know, my time for this week has run down. And once again, I have to leave you. I hope you enjoyed the music. I hope you look for Jonathan's songs wherever you can find them. Listen to him. He's got hundreds and hundreds of fantastic songs. If you're watching on Facebook, share me, especially this episode. It's meaningful. If you watch on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe, you'll get every episode. Till next week, I'm Rick Blood. This is Unfiltered. Peace.